before we start today's League Apps Level Up webinar. Today we're going to be focusing on, of course, best practices for youth sports insurance, background checks, injuries, and more. We can't wait to get started and kind of introduce today's primary topic. Hopefully everyone is here and ready to rock and roll. I'm going to introduce myself really quickly. My name is Robert Bennett. I am a customer success training and enablement specialist here at LeagueApps, and I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar. So again, thank you so much for joining and for being here. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few kind of different controls when it comes to using a Zoom webinar. So when you're joining today, you won't be able to use your web camera or come off and mute, but you can communicate with us through chat and also the Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the presentation at any given time, or you just want to kind of have any type of kind of connect with us or collaborate throughout our presentation, use either the chat and also the Q&A for questions as well. Keep in mind that this session is being recorded, and also you'll be able to have access to this recording after the presentation, as well as being able to, getting an allocated time towards the end of the presentation for any Q&A. So we'll leave some time at the end of our presentation for questions that you may have as well. So now focusing on today's agenda, we're going to have a quick LeagueApps overview. Going to get a quick introduction of the importance of risk management. We're also going to do a YardStik overview and also kind of get a better understanding how to simplify your background checks, and also a conversation with YardStik and LeagueApps as well. And again, leaving some allocated time towards the end of our presentation for questions as well. So here at LeagueApps, we really do live by this quote. And the quote is from Nelson Mandela. And the quote is, "The sports has the power to change the world." This really impacts everything that we do when it comes to our product and our culture and our customers that we interact with every single day. Now, you might be thinking, why LeagueApps? Well, there are some really key differentiators that separate us from our competition. One of them being comprehensive capabilities. 2, revenue growth. 3, championship customer service. 4, professional community. And 5, change-making contributions. Now, we're going to do a quick dive in terms of our products and our offerings and get a better understanding of why we're all here today. So first and foremost, we offer a robust of youth sports management solutions that help provide registrations, payments, and communications in an all-in-one system. We also offer a free mobile app that allows administrators to communicate, update schedules, RSVPs, and more on the go. And now that we are getting into more of an introduction of LeagueApps in collaboration with YardStik, I'd like to introduce 2 amazing individuals. One, Bharat Chopra, our Senior Director of Premium Products, and also Brady Strom, our Director of Customer Success at YardStik. So fellas, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that. It's nice to see all of you today. I'm going to introduce myself first. My name is Bharat Chopra, as Robert said. I'm in charge of premium products here at LeagueApps. This includes 2 different businesses. One is what we call LeagueApps Connect, which includes our integration center, and the other one is Design Shop, which includes we've built about 650 websites for youth sports organizations. Personally, my mission is to help children achieve their full potential and become the best version of themselves. And I'm very grateful I get to do that here at LeagueApps, right at the intersection of technology, sports, and impact. Talk a little bit about LeagueApps Connect right now. So go ahead to the next slide, please. We've built our integration center for a few different reasons. We believe that our partners, you, should control your data. We fully understand that you are using several different pieces of technology to run your sports organization. And we also know that your members are using several different pieces of technology just to participate and be part of your organization. So we built LeagueApps Connect as a way to help and empower you to get your data from LeagueApps into other tools and now back into LeagueApps to make your life easier, streamline your operations, and in some cases help you even create new revenue streams. Today, we have integrations that we've built. To go back one slide, please, with MailChimp, Google Sheets, we're QuickBooks Online and Pilot, and a few others that you can see on the screen here. And what we're really excited to talk about today is the YardStik integration, which is really one of the anchors of our risk management solution. With that, I'm excited to introduce Brady. Brady, would love to have you introduce yourself, and in LeagueApps tradition, also want you to tell everyone what your favorite condiment is.
Oh boy, threw me for a loop on that one. Hey, my name is Brady. I am the Director of Customer Success at YardStik. I love being at YardStik. We are attempting to bring safety and security and peace of mind to marketplaces all over. And one of our huge focuses is in the realm of youth sports. We are crazy passionate about creating a safe environment for young athletes and for coaches and for volunteers. And we really think that it's a complex world. It's a tough topic. It's tough to carry out really well. It's tough to execute on. And so really we kind of operate with this idea of safety, number one, simplicity, number two, because it's one thing to value safety, but it's another thing to execute on it and really do well at it. And so simplicity is huge for us. And then also peace of mind. Now for the fun part of that question, man, I'm kind of a hot sauce crazy right now. Cholula hot sauce, I think it's called. I'm dumping it on everything.
That's fantastic. My answer several years ago was sriracha, so we're on the same page there.
There you go.
And look, speaking of being on the same page, YardStik, I'd love you to talk about the origin story and where you guys came from. And I know you're a relatively new company, but you have a deep experience in terms of your leadership and you personally in the space. So
Yeah, that's right. We're not unlike LeagueApps. We're born out of the youth sports world and our love for youth sports. And so a number of us came out of Sports Engine, and our founder really saw this need for safety and security in the world of youth sports as we were building up Sports Engine. And he looked out and he thought, there's no way to do this easily. There's too many rules out there. It's wild, wild west. Nobody knows how to do it really well. You're either doing it manually and taking on a bunch of liability, or you're trying to do it the right way, but you don't know what you're actually searching. And then there's this idea that in youth sports technology, you're trying to do as much as you can in one place. And I know that's really the premise of LeagueApps in a lot of ways, is really bringing all that power into one spot. So you have too many things to do as a youth sport organizer to manage all these different applications and all this different technology. And so at YardStik, we were so excited to say, okay, we found that this is important at Sports Engine. We found that making safety a priority for youth sport organizations is a big deal. We've done this successfully at Sports Engine now. We've screened millions and millions of coaches and volunteers. How do we bring the power of what we're finding and accomplishing into other areas? And so a big part of that is partnering with awesome companies like LeagueApps to say, hey, people love your tech. They love using you. They've got a lot of things to do. How do we integrate with you and make this really, really simple? And LeagueApps has kind of gone forward and chosen a partner to help you make this simple and have peace of mind.
Yeah, it's funny. LeagueApps, we build our company around a set of values, and all those values are based on things that we learned playing sports as kids. And, as all of us are keenly aware now with the way that players and coaches move from team to team, one day someone is your arch nemesis and rival, and the next day you're sharing a mission and on the same path together. So it's been really fun to get to know all of you guys. And I think one of the things that really made you guys stand out for us as we looked at all the different organizations in this space is the deep values alignment and the deep experience you have in youth sports. So, with that, I want to talk first generically about sort of risk management in youth sports and, when this became really important and why this has become really important.
Yeah. So, it's it's a tough topic to talk about, because what makes it important are situations that are really sticky and not great. And so we've all seen things over the last decade, things happening in the news in youth sports, that really cause a stir and make you wonder, are we doing the right things to keep our community safe here? Are we making the right choices here? And so really there's this importance of making sure you are doing your due diligence and doing everything in your power to keep your kids and your volunteers and your organization safe. Now it's challenging. It's a challenging thing to know that you're doing everything right. There are bad actors in places where there are vulnerable people, and that's just a reality, and that's a hard reality. And so in youth sports, that's the case. And so we want to protect our kids. You know, I'm a dad, I've got 2 little girls. And as I look to the places that we will put our little girls, I need to see a value of safety before I will kind of release them into the hands of others. And so it's such an important topic. It's increasingly important as your sport organization grows and changes. And you can't any longer just say, I know this person, I know that person, I trust them. You have to be doing what you can to really ensure that your organization is safe.
Yeah, thank you. And so I know we want to do a deep dive on background checks and the integration we've built, but I'd also like to cover quickly, the different levels of security and the different levels of compliance. You know, I know at a high level, we can talk about coach training, concussion training protocol, sexual abuse prevention, and different mechanisms. So could you share a little bit about, your experience and what how YardStik is viewing all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things when we ventured at Sports Engine into this world is we realized that there were a lot of background checks out there where things are just slipping through the cracks. And so there are these quick database searches that are free and cheap, but there are hits and convictions and things being missed left and right. And so we've introduced a few packages here through the YardStik and LeagueApps integration that allows you to really determine the level of safety that you want to approach this with. And so at the top level of that is something that is compliant with governing body requirements and really make sure that you can do everything in your power to check the counties, check 7 years of history, really make sure that you are checking all bases. There's another one where you can check current county of residence, but the way our screens work is that we actually take hits that are still found in databases and counties all over and surface them up to you to really make sure we're doing it right. And then there's another option too that's a little bit less expensive and a little bit more quickly, maybe for low risk positions that aren't interacting so directly. But really, we often get organizations in the direction of kind of low risk tolerance and really wanting to kind of set that North Star on safety for their marketplaces. And then, of course, there's ongoing things like heads up training, and we have our eye on some other pieces of compliance that are almost post hire of your coaches to make sure that you are keeping a safe environment going forward beyond just the check of if there are records for somebody.
That's great. And so you just alluded to this a little bit, but can you share a little bit more about kind of relationships with governing bodies and what some of their requirements might be across different sports? And then, as part of that, I think you also talked about the fact that there are these different levels of checks. And so in some cases, an organization, they could be getting background checks for all of their coaches that are in, close relationships and proximity to children, but then maybe they're overlooking background checks that could be done with volunteers, with drivers, with staff that are have ability to access data or, have some access to the children.
Yeah, yep, that's right. I'm a little bit biased being part of a human security and risk management company, but we think that this is more than checking a box, fulfilling a requirement. So there are certain, understanding your governing body's requirements are really important. That might only cover a portion of your staff and your volunteers. And so I would really encourage and implore you to make sure that you're going beyond checking a box here and that you are creating a safe environment for all of your volunteers and for all of your kids. And there's no guilt involved here because everyone has different levels of how they've been exposed to this world. But if you are complying and you have a safety program in place, props to you. I think that's incredible. If you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh man, what are we doing? I don't know if I checked the volunteers last year. I'm not sure about this. I know some people do it through this governing body, but maybe these people, slip through the cracks. This integration is going to make it really easy to keep it safe and have peace of mind for yourself that you're doing right by all volunteers and kids in your organization.
That's fantastic. And so what would your recommendation be to a leader of a youth sports organization that, is coming at this, and maybe they've been running background checks one way, maybe they've been doing it through a governing body, through a local partner, and what's your recommendation to them right now? How do they engage with YardStik, and how do they learn about, what's the right set of solutions for their organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's my favorite part about YardStik is that we're a safety partner for you. And so you see Mallory up on the screen here at YardStik, and she's someone that you can get in touch with and talk through and ask questions and really understand what type of safety program you want to run. And so I think that's a great part about YardStik is, again, this is a confusing space. So we're here to be your expert and help you make the right decision, but understanding those packages, what's being searched, your risk tolerance, all those things are really important. But again, you've got a group that's in your corner and here to help.
Awesome. Yeah. And I definitely encourage everyone to reach out to Mallory directly. She put the link of the YardStik and LeagueApps landing page in there, and then just ask her every question you can think of about what the requirements are in your state, in your sport, at the age levels that you have, how to break up the different, the right selection of different background checks for different individuals, just all of that. So, as we go forward, one of the things that is very apparent for us, right? About 50% of our customer base, we believe, is affiliated with a governing body, already has this in place. And we're very much hoping that we can make this solution easier for them to run checks on more of the adults that are in their ecosystem, their community. Mm-hmm. But what about the organizations that, so far have not had legal requirements to do this? Like, how would you encourage them to think about risk management, both from a perspective, obviously first actually protecting the children, but then in terms of promoting the level of effort they go through to protect the children in their marketing and their communications with parents?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something that the organizations that are really thinking about this the right way will let people in their community know that they are taking these measures to protect their athletes and to protect their community. And so I've seen many organizations actually post this out there with pride that we're taking this step to minimize risk in our organization. And again, a bit of going beyond a requirement and thinking through the safety that you want to create in your community. One of the hard things that I've found over my years at this, though, is that even if you really believe in your heart of hearts that we want to create a safe environment, it's still really hard to know what step to take. It's like, where do I go from here? What do I do with that information? And so I think something that's so powerful about this relationship, and why I love our alignment of values at LeagueApps, is they talk about the power of sport. Well, with power comes some responsibility. And now what do I do from there? And so this LeagueApps integration really makes it simple. They've gone ahead of you and vetted a partner in YardStik that they believe is taking a forward-thinking approach to this and going to be a great long-term partner for you. So they've gone ahead, still ask questions and vet us, but they've gone ahead and taken this step. They've connected this from a technological perspective, so it doesn't have to be so hard. You have easy access to do this really, really well with a trusted partner who's very invested in this space for you. And so again, I think the next step is like always the hard thing. If you don't have requirements or you're not doing anything right now, well, this next step just got a lot easier because you get to use the tech you love at LeagueApps while doing the right thing to minimize risk in your organization.
Thank you, Brady. It's really well said. If you can just go back one slide, please. I just wanted to talk a little bit about how easy it is to set this integration up. And this is in large part to the incredible work of Chris Anisowicz, Elisa Byramovich on our product team. so there's a few steps that you would take as a LeagueApps organizer to make this happen. The first is you'll reach out to Mallory, and she'll help you get set up with your YardStik account. And that may take a few days, but it's a critical process for her to make sure she's setting this up correctly and have the appropriate waivers signed by your org. The second thing is that you'll go and actually set up the integration in LeagueApps. So what you see on the left, you're probably very familiar with this, is the program settings. And for, what we strongly recommend is that you create a coach background check program. You can call this a coach onboarding program, or a coach's corner is what we see people do often. And then what you do is you create that program, you go into the integration code and select YardStik. And at this point, you're ready to, basically, you've now told LeagueApps that this program will be affiliated with YardStik. From here, you would navigate into the integration center and launch the YardStik tile. And from here, this little view here, you can see is, it was called a mapping tool. And this is really cool. It allows you to map the program that you created with the YardStik package. So for example, if you had a volunteer program that you wanted to run the volunteer check, then you could easily map those. And then you can also have a coach's program to run a different level of a check. This is really cool. If you can go to the next slide, please. From here, what happens is anytime your coach registers for that program, they will very quickly receive an email from YardStik that's requesting them to click on a link and enter their personal information. This is intentionally a second step because this is the most secure way for your coach to give that personal information that we don't want stored, that you don't want access to in LeagueApps, that only will be available on YardStik. They will click on a link. The best part is they do not have to create an account. They can simply just click on this link and use email authentication, and then they will start their process. From there, you will only have to look in LeagueApps or the background check report that you can see here. Right now, at any point in time, you can go into LeagueApps and play with a demo of this. It is a really cool report that we're really proud of, and we know that this is going to make your lives easier, that we'll be able to easily see who everyone where they are in their process of the background check. So, that was really all we wanted to share today. There's a video here you can watch. At this point in time, we wanted to pause and take any questions from the audience. And then, we'll come back at the end and share some of these resources with you. So does anyone have any questions? And in the meanwhile, just to get it started, Brady, I'll turn this over to you. You've been doing this for many, many years. What are some common questions that you, or even Mallory, if you want to jump in, what are some common questions that you guys are getting that might spur some thoughts with the audience?
Yeah, I would say you brought up a good point on the data security piece of this and the liability. There's a lot of organizations out there that maybe on the first practice, they're collecting a sheet of paper with this information and they're storing it somewhere and they're bringing it over to somewhere to run the background checks. And one thing that's great about YardStik and the way that LeagueApps has set this up is that we are taking every measure of data security possible to keep things safe. You don't want the liability on you of storing personal information for your coaches. And so facilitating it through this process just takes that off of your hands as well.
Thanks. And for those of you who are wondering where to pose your questions, there's the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. And if you can click on that, that's where you can go ahead and should be able to enter a question. Brady, while we're still waiting for other questions, what is, I know that we're very excited. We've just launched this background check integration, but I also realize that YardStik is fastly expanding organization. What is next for you in terms of coach compliance and training that people might get interested in?
Yeah, we definitely have our eye on things like safe sports and things like social media screening and these other ways that you can choose a North Star to keep your organization safe. So we've got our eye on those things, and we're really excited to keep growing this out. I do see one piece on touching up on the different packages. And so with the packages in mind, I see that in the Q&A here. Really the premium package is going to go to 7 years of county history. It's your most stringent background check. It's really, really making sure that you are looking back far enough and going to every county where that person may have resided for the last 7 years to really help you. The standard is going to be very similar, except for from the county perspective, where we're going to the county of residence, not 7 years of any county lived in history, although hits will show from different counties. And the express package, there are many databases that we're hitting with millions and millions and millions of records, but we're not going to the county directly. And we really do believe that the county is the source of truth here. And so if you're really trying to look at hits where there may have been activity in a county or the last 7 years in counties, those are probably where we'd lead you to in the world of youth sports.
Great. And I'm seeing a few other, I hope that answered your question, Nettie. And I know you know exactly how to get in touch with us to provide more detail. In terms of Jed's question around providing a broad overview of various concerns, I'd love for you to address that one, Brady. And then in terms of your second question, Jed, I would absolutely recommend that you reach out to Mallory and give her, much more specific information about where you are, what sports, what age, and she'll be able to provide much more specific info for you around, what the DOE requires versus what is best recommendation for you. So turning it back over to you, Brady, talk about the broad and various concerns that the sports organizers should have.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're really thinking about this the right way, Jed. And really what I would say to this is that no matter how well you think you know somebody or the people in your community, it's important for you to make sure that there's not history for these individuals that are going to have close contact with vulnerable kids and people in your organization. And so many of the stories that we hear in the news, I hate to talk about it, but it's just true. You hear people say, I never thought it would have been that person. I knew this person. And so even if you think you know somebody, that is a concern, because in these organizations, I always look at it as three ways. You're protecting your people, your kids, you're protecting your coaches and volunteers as well in this, and you're protecting your organization, your assets. So there's liability involved in this as well. So I would think of it as really protecting those pieces of the organization.
Thank you. And then a couple of questions from Gary I'd love you to address around requirements to submit social security numbers, and then tailoring this around how frequently that individuals need to run their checks.
Awesome questions. We got this question all the time at Sports Engine. Do I have to put in my social security number? In order to run a successful background check, we do need a social security number to properly identify the individual. There are otherwise too many factors that can bring up too many John Smiths in a background check process. And so you need that piece of identifying information. We are SOC 2 compliance, which all that means is we're doing everything we can to protect your data and make sure that it is safe and secure. So great question. From a tailoring of frequency, we often see every 2 years used. 1 year is kind of gold standard for your volunteers to recheck if you have people who are going through the process. We also, we're active in more than just the youth sports space. We're in the gig economy and we're in driver delivery. And so one thing that we are releasing is continuous monitoring. So if you want to just continuously monitor your volunteers and just know if any hits come up, that's an option that will come down the road as well. So again, 2 years is okay. 1 is more the standard, and there's other options as well.
And I'm going to ask you one last question, Brady, and then wrap up. In terms of paying for it, how often do you see organizations paying for the background checks, and how often do you see them asking the coaches to pay for it?
Yeah, it's a sensitive topic. We're in youth sports, and so it's the reality of it. Volunteer organizations. And so I'd say we see a bit of a split, but one thing that's nice is that you do have the ability to offset these costs while promoting safety. And I think many coaches and volunteers are willing to put a few dollars down to be part of ensuring safety and security. And so that is an option. It's not an option with every company. And so it's nice to at least have the flexibility. We also see, Bharat, just something to bring up, is that people will, into their registration fees and in other ways, bring security costs into that and help cover the cost of doing this if you're passionate about it and want to do it the right way.
Great. And so that's one thing, you know, with LeagueApps, when you create these coaches corners or these volunteer registration programs, you obviously can turn on a fee if you need to, and, you know, you can charge them, you can subsidize it or charge them accordingly. So I think that's kind of the last thing I would share. I do hope that all of you realize you can reach out to your LeagueApps customer success manager. You can track me down, and Mallory is also you know, your point of contact here for helping you get set up with your safety programs.
Awesome. Thanks, Bharat. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Robert, you want to bring us home?
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Brady and Bharat, for that amazing overview and really interacting with our participants today and answering all those amazing questions, and just kind of showcasing that integration with LeagueApps and YardStik. Again, this session and this webinar is recorded, and we'll have access to it post webinar. And also, thank you so much for attending today. And we look forward to future webinars and presentations that will show you more what LeagueApps has to offer. So again, thanks you so much for everyone being here. And from LeagueApps to you, remember to play forever.